Legislators in Texas will consider a new set of congressional maps for House districts. The new maps could yield a possible 5 additional seats for Republicans in an already red state. Now, the last time the state was redrawn was back in 2021, and that was constitutionally mandated process that took place in all 50 states. I want to bring in David Goodman now. He is the Houston bureau chief for the New York Times. Thank you so much, David, for joining us. How big of a force has President Trump been in pushing for redistricting in the state of Texas?
Well, when it comes to the redistricting that's being considered right now in the state legislature, I mean, it all comes from the White House. This is not something that Republicans in Texas were considering or really seeking to do. They were quite happy with the lines that they had drawn, just a few years ago after the 2020 census back in 21, and they were defending those maps. In fact, there's a court case that has yet to be resolved, but is in front of some judges out in El Paso, in which the state of Texas was defending its current maps. And then President Trump comes along in the last couple of months and says, actually, we think you guys can get even more seats in Congress out of these Republican voters in Texas. And, I want you to try and do that. And so here we are. This is a process that's been pushed out of Washington by the president entirely. And now Republicans in Texas are carrying it forward.
So I want to ask about Democrats here, because how are they pushing back against this plan by the Republicans? And do they even have any leverage, any power to stop it?
Well, that is a huge challenge for the Democrats here. They don't have a ton of leverage. They're in the minority in the state House and in the state Senate. They control none of the statewide offices. And so what they're trying to do is raise a lot of awareness. I think a lot of Texans don't even know this is happening right now, that there is this rare mid-decade redistricting. So they're trying to, get in front of cameras, say that this is, these districts are being essentially stolen by Washington from Texas voters. And then they're considering taking more extreme measures, potentially walking out on the session. And what that would mean is that a certain number of Democrats, really the vast majority of them, would have to not show up in the legislature, and that would deny what's called a quorum, the number necessary to meet, and then they couldn't actually vote on these maps. And Democrats have done this in the past when redistrictings came up and Republicans were trying to get more seats. They walked out on the sessions, they've delayed the process. But in the end, that hasn't resulted in the Democrats getting their way, and those maps were voted through. So I think what we're likely to see is Democrats talk about this and possibly even go forward with it. But in the end, these maps that the president wants are very likely to come to pass.
All right, David, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate your insight into this.
Thank you.